Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from John. Finntroll, Slaget vid Blodsälv, folk metal from Finland. John got in contact with me on Discord to provide some extra context to this. Says the title translates to Battle of Blood River. Gave me a translation of the lyrics as well as a quick rundown for what the lyrics are based off of. Also mentions that Finntroll mixes black metal with Finnish folk music and humpa. And they are from Finland but sing in Swedish because they feel that it gives them more of a trollish component to the language. They also perform in trollish outfits, which is pretty cool, and the band name is self-explanatory as it's just Finnish trolls. So let's dive into this. I did notice there's a small discrepancy here where I was told it was Slaget vid Blodsälv, and according to both their official YouTube channel and Apple Music, it's Slaget vid Blodsälv. I'm curious what the difference is between and vid. If anyone has any comments on that, let me know down in the comment section. Like I said, I'm quite curious about it. So let's dive into this, see what's going on with Finntroll. The offbeat accordion, I think, makes it feel like ska, kind of polka-ish. Nope, ska, definitely ska. Very fast tempo, driving, tons of intensity and energy. Oh, I love that line. Really ominous and haunting moment. That one right there. Okay, there's some folk bits. Kind of punky though. Not anymore. I mentioned that's an accordion. I'm not so sure anymore now that I have a clear hearing of it. And they got the strings in the background here. Okay, that does sound like an accordion to me. What a wild song. Okay, so a couple quick things. I think I found the difference where Om is of and Vid is at. So the translation was Battle of Blood River, but it seems that the official track listing would be translated to Battle at Blood River. Similar. Um, I looking at a personnel list, I don't see any of this. So I'm gonna guess it's mostly organ work then. Organs coming from a keyboard, because we do have a keyboardist, and a keyboard means you have so many timbres at hand. There are choirs in here though. There is a banjo player on the album. I don't think I heard banjo in here, but no, actually I know I didn't hear banjo. That'd be a very distinct timbre. Um, so I do think though that it was an accordion-esque sound. Could have been organ as well. Just yeah, just wild. Um, so I talked about some different sounds in here, and it's got metal components to it, of course, with the vocal style, the guitars, the drumming, the bass work, but it also feels very punky at times. The accordion or organ, whatever that is, on the offbeats that we hear it all throughout here, especially at the tempo they're playing, also gives it this ska sound that I had mentioned. Also, kind of leaning towards punk, though. I mean, it's kind of like a punky ska. Uh, Skunk. No, that's terrible. Yeah, but it's so difficult to really get a grasp on anything here because they're frequently tossing in new ideas or removing old ideas, replacing them, replacing old ideas with new ones at such a tempo and in such a condensed amount of time. The song is only 3.25 minutes long, and honestly, when we were only a minute in, I felt like I had heard a whole song's worth of music already. They take zero time really setting anything up. We're just constantly in the moment, pushing towards the next. Um, and so it gives the entire song a frantic component to it. I don't know if this is the type of music they always play. The genres for the album are listed as folk metal, which makes sense. There's folk elements in the metal. And black metal, which I didn't hear too much of, particularly in this track, but could be part of a different wave of black metal. I tend to associate the sound of third wave when I hear the term black metal, but black metal is also kind of related to thrash and punk. So, I mean, maybe there is a type of black metal that might feel more close to this. I haven't pulled that down yet. Been so flabbergasted with what this track just did. Um, but yeah, like I had a tough time really grasping on to much of anything in here. And honestly, I could probably do with another listen to have a better understanding of it. And I may, after I talk through some of my initial thoughts here, go for another quick listen because it's so short. And I do like to be as thorough as possible, but I don't like to play favorites either. People might expect me to listen to everything twice. Um, on a musical level, this song is just not musical, musicianship level. This song is a beast. The tempo itself, but also the reliance on faster notes. Yeah, you can have a fast tempo and play lengthy notes. You don't really have to do as much, but pairing shorter notes with the fast tempo really means that everybody has to be on the top of their game, because not only do you have to play all the right notes at this speed, but you need to start and stop them at the right time as well. When you get to playing this fast, especially in a group setting like this, it's very easy for the end result to get kind of muddy if people aren't beginning their notes and ending their notes at the exact same time. And we actually do visit a little bit of this muddiness with that accordion or organ sound because it's very wide and it has a bit of a tail to it. And that is one of the things you absolutely do not want in faster music like this is a fade out on your notes. You really want them to stop abruptly. It's why really sharp attacks and really sharp stops of notes, particularly muting of some sort when you're looking at guitar work, is so prevalent in tech death. Most of the notes are hit and then stopped. You don't really hear much of a trail off from them. And it's because when you put so many notes like this together, you really don't want them overlapping at all. And we get a little bit of that out of the organ sound. It's not enough to make the song feel bad or feel muddy or anything like that, but it is enough for my brain to say, oh, this is a little rough here. But I think that's the purpose of it. Otherwise, it's a keyboard. They have complete control over the sounds of their library, and they could easily taper off the end of that if they wanted to, but they choose to keep it, and I think it works for those moments. You can feel the difference in time when that instrument is present and when it's just the band. One of them feels a lot tighter than the other, and that's the reason why. There's a bit of a tail on that instrument. Um, the vocals, I kind of paid a little bit more attention to them than I would usually, given that it's just growls of some sort, because I wanted to kind of hear this trollish component to it. I couldn't hear it, but I don't speak Finnish nor Swedish. Was that the other one? So I don't know how the accent of one affects the language of the other in a way that might sound trollish to their ears because I don't really have a basis for either one of them. But the vocals were what I'm not a big fan of in black metal. They were quite a bit more expressive than I would expect, though, especially for a band that has a black metal label on their genre. It was more of a directed, harsh, but what was really cool about it was that it seemed pitched. Not so much that, like a post hardcore vocalist might pitch their harshes, but enough to give it character, which I thought was very cool. You could hear some bits that were a bit, or some hits that were a bit lower, kind of had a gnarliness to them, and then some that were a bit higher. You could kind of hear, I think, a little bit of vocal cord work put in there as well. And it just ends up sounding almost like somebody speaking with a snarl, more so than being growled at. And I thought that was really nice. Um, and other than just, oh, one other thing. Yeah, theme. Emotion. This song as a whole is just frantic, and I think for a song about a battle, it probably works. I don't know what the lyrics are yet, but I'd wager that any song about a battle, a frantic feel is probably good for it. But there was also quite a few different chord progressions that brought in different emotional resonances throughout this track, other than just raw freneticism. It's not a word. Purely being frantic though, and blurry. I mean, it's like I said, it's difficult to grasp onto anything. Like everything's just happening in a blur. Um, but there was a moment in the middle that we sort of deviated a bit from it when we brought in some heavy emphasis on the strings that was exceptionally ominous, and antagonistic. And I like that too because, assuming this is trolls, we're looking probably at something fantasy, probably medieval aligned. A battle at Blood River is going to be primarily melee based. I'm thinking of like knights and swords and axes and stuff, maybe archers, catapults, but primarily it's going to be a bloody battle. It's very in your face. It's not one that's going to be fought across fields with ranged weaponry. Um, and so being in this moment, frantically seeing all this action around you, and at one point, taking a moment, maybe you've taken a lethal hit, or maybe you just have a moment to breathe and you see, the chaos and death around you. I think having that moment in the track, it was a singular moment too. We never revisited that sound of having this darkness, this not eerie, but just moody. What was the word I used? Antagonistic. It's just filled with a lot of tension, and it really worked at that point. I am going to take a quick moment to give the song another listen, being it's so short, and being that the video right now is so short. And we'll come back, see if I have anything else to add to this. There's quite a bit of nuance I forgot. First of all, I didn't talk about melody at all, and the strings actually have some really great moments. A lot of them are still ostinatos, or since we're in metal, we'll call them riffs, repeated moments. I don't think there's anything that was really just a really lengthy type of melody, but just really great juxtaposition between the ostinatos and the strings versus the ostinatos and the keyboard, and hearing them get to play off of each other. The guitars don't really get to do much of this. They shine with their riffs in the more straightforward metal sections, but when the keyboard or the strings have the spotlight, the guitars kind of dip down a little bit and work with just chords. But most of the guitar riffs, when they get to shine, kind of have that equal level of intensity, danceability, if I might say. The whole song just has really great groove and movement to it. Um, and they sort of reflect a style that's reminiscent of the other two lead instruments, just with a bit more bite on them. Um, Another thing I completely forgot was, oh my, I've seemed to have forgot it again. Well, that's a bit of a shame. The choir. I had to go listen to it a quick second again. I love the choir. I kind of forgot it was there. Maybe I never even heard it the first time around. I mentioned it when I was reading the personnel list, but I honestly didn't remember it until the second listen there, and then I had to go listen to it again. Unfortunately, memory is just not what it used to be. But it adds a lot of depth and width to the song that isn't present throughout the other sections. The choir is sparsely used, so I'm curious if it has a specific purpose for what lyrics are being said at the time, and that's unfortunately something we probably won't get into, as I never get into that. That would require a lot of extra listening while having lyrics up and trying to pair all that together while having a solid understanding of the lyrics that I don't always have anyways, because I'm not a poetic analyst. Um, but yeah, the choir just works in those places. I wish we would hear more of it, maybe as a more prominent component rather than a foundational aspect of the track. But nonetheless, it still works really well where it's at. And so yeah, that's pretty much the song right there. It is fast, it is chaotic, it is victorious at times. It's kind of punky, sky, it's kind of folky, it's kind of metally, it's kind of baroque actually at one point. One of the string lines, the descent of it, I think it's the same concept, and we just shift it down um, over like 8 bars or whatever, shift the pitch down. Very baroque styling sound, but it's literally the only moment it comes up, and it lasts for like 16 bars tops at this speed, which is like 10 seconds. It's a transition concept, so yeah, it's just really interesting how much they cram into such a small song. And yet make it still feel epic. I think it's because there's so much here that it feels larger than it probably should be for a 3-minute song of uh, folky metal. Let's hit some lyrics. So, lyrically, the track is about a battle between troll and human, although specifically it's listed as Christian men. Um, and it talks about the anticipation at the beginning, which I think is hilarious given how quickly we move into intensity with the music. It talks about creeping through a forest with no sound or even a whisper heard as they prepare for this battle. Eventually, though, the trolls rush through, and the trolls ride forward in a storm of blood. Uh, wind, the wind blows with blood and limbs as man after man falls, though less of those limbs are of those of the trolls that protect their homes. It says, as if by a miracle, they meet the king, um, and the trolls sink their axes into the king, cutting him apart. And so they raise their axes and whip their pigs to head back home. That's the whole story here. Um, on its own, I mean, it's fantasy war combat. I think it fits the intensity of the music. Apparently, though, it also has some sort of larger ideas, both as metaphor and within a lore. It follows the legendary Ripvada, king shaman of the trollish race, and his war against the Christian encroachment of the trollish northern lands. The trolls gather under Svartsburg around the ancient throne of Ripvada, who then leads them on a war against the tribe of Christ. So these characters and places come back throughout more albums of Finntroll, and it says that it also acts as an analogy of the conflict between the Christians and pagans in early medieval Scandinavia. So that's interesting. They found a way to take their history and uh, make lore around. I guess that's what most writers do. Uh, yeah, I guess that's not that unusual. But I mean, it's nice how they pull it together into a musical act too, and they put the costumes together and all that. So it's a whole thing with them. I give them credit for their determination with it all. All right, those are my thoughts on Finntroll's Slaget vid Blodsälv. Let me know what you thought of this track. Let me know your perspectives, opinions, thoughts, all of it down in the comments section. Above the comments in the description box is a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to wrap up this week with our final theme track, our final special selection, and a creator request for the week. Till next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.